It was a crisp spring morning in 1846. The Donner Party set out from Illinois. They were full of hope and dreams. Their destination, the promised land of California. Little did they know the horrors that awaited them. The group was led by George Donner and James F. Reed. They were joined by their families and other hopeful settlers. In total, there were 87 members in the party. They had wagons packed with supplies. Oxen pulled their heavy loads. The mood was cheerful as they began their trek. But the journey west was no easy feat. It would take months of hard travel. They would face harsh terrain and unpredictable weather. Disease and accidents were constant threats, yet they pressed on, driven by the promise of a better life. As they left civilization behind, the realities of the trail set in. The days were long and grueling. Nights were cold and filled with strange noises, but still they held on to their dreams. Little did they know that their choices would soon lead them into a nightmare. The first leg of the journey went smoothly. The Donner Party made good time. They followed the well-established Oregon Trail. Spirits were high as they crossed the Great Plains, but soon cracks began to show in their unity. Tensions rose as personalities clashed. The long days on the trail took their toll. Arguments broke out over trivial matters. Some families began to distance themselves from others. The once cheerful group was becoming fractured. As they reached Fort Laramie, they received troubling news. The route ahead was more difficult than expected. Some began to worry about reaching California before winter. It was then that they heard about a shortcut. The Hastings cutoff promised to save them precious time. The party was divided on what to do. Some wanted to stick to the known route, others were eager to try the shortcut. Little did they know that this decision would seal their fate. The seeds of tragedy were being sown one choice at a time. The Hastings cutoff seemed like a godsend. It promised to shave weeks off their journey. Lansford Hastings, who proposed the route, painted a rosy picture. He claimed it was an easy passage through the Wasatch Mountains. The Donner Party was tempted by the prospect of arriving early in California. James Reed was the most vocal supporter of the new route. He convinced many that it was their best option. George Donner was more hesitant, but eventually agreed. On July 19th, they made the fateful turn onto the Hastings cutoff. It was a decision they would soon regret. The shortcut immediately proved more challenging than advertised. The terrain was rugged and unforgiving. Progress slowed to a crawl. They had to cut their way through dense forests. Wagons broke down on the steep mountain paths. Precious time and resources were being wasted. As they struggled through the Wasatch Mountains, doubt began to creep in. Had they made a terrible mistake? The easy passage promised by Hastings was nowhere to be seen. Instead, they faced one obstacle after another. The shortcut was turning into a long nightmare. After the mountain ordeal, the Donner Party faced a new challenge. The Great Salt Lake Desert stretched before them. Hastings had claimed it was a mere 40-mile crossing. In reality, it was closer to 80 miles of barren, salt-crusted earth. The party was woefully unprepared for what lay ahead. They entered the desert in high spirits, believing the worst was behind them. But the harsh reality soon set in. The sun beat down mercilessly. There was no shade, no water. The salt flats reflected the heat, making it unbearable. Animals began to die from exhaustion and thirst. The crossing took a devastating toll on the group. Wagons got stuck in the soft sand. Precious supplies had to be abandoned to lighten the load. Some families lost everything they owned. The desert crossing took 5 days instead of 2. By the end, they were exhausted and demoralized. As they finally reached the other side, the Donner Party was a shadow of its former self. They had lost valuable time and resources. The delay meant they were now dangerously behind schedule. Winter was approaching, and they still had the Sierra Nevada to cross. The desert had broken their spirit, but worse was yet to come. Section 5, Trapped in the Sierra Nevada. The Donner Party reached the Sierra Nevada in late October. It was dangerously late in the season. The mountains loomed before them, snow already dusting the peaks. They knew they had to hurry, but their oxen were weak, and their supplies were low. The odds were stacked against them. They began the ascent with grim determination. The trail was steep and treacherous. Wagons had to be dismantled and carried piece by piece. Progress was agonizingly slow. Every day the temperature dropped, the first snowflakes began to fall. Panic set in as they realized they might not make it. On October 28th, they reached what is now Truckee Lake. Heavy snow began to fall. The pass ahead was blocked. They were trapped. In desperation, they built makeshift cabins. They hoped it would be temporary. But as the snow continued to fall, reality set in. They were stranded for the winter. The Donner Party split into two camps. The Donner family was forced to stay a few miles back. They quickly built shelters from tree branches and canvas. But these were poor protection against the brutal Sierra winter. As food ran low and temperatures plummeted, their situation became dire. The fight for survival had begun. Winter's icy grip at Donner Lake. The winter of 1846 to 1847 was one of the harshest on record. Snow piled up to 20 feet deep. The makeshift cabins were buried. The trapped pioneers had to dig tunnels just to go outside. They ate everything they could: bark, bones, boiled leather. The weakest began to die. The survivors faced an unthinkable choice: eat the dead or die themselves. Section 7. Desperate measures for survival. As January dragged on, the situation became dire. All normal food was gone. The survivors resorted to eating mice, snowshoes, and even the family dogs. But it wasn't enough. The terrible decision to consume human flesh could no longer be avoided. It was eat or die. Not everyone participated in the cannibalism. Some chose to starve rather than cross that line, but for many, the will to live overcame their moral objections. They rationalized it as necessary for survival. The dead were no longer people, but a resource to keep the living alive. The psychological toll was immense. Those who ate human flesh were forever changed. Guilt and shame mixed with the primal need to survive. Families were torn apart by their choices. Some went mad from the stress and isolation. The Donner Lake camps became a hell on earth. As supplies dwindled, some began to eye the living. There were whispers of murder for food. Trust completely broke down. The strong preyed on the weak. It was a complete breakdown of civilized behavior. The Donner Party had been reduced to its basest instincts. Survival was all that mattered now. Section 8. The Forlorn Hope Expedition. By mid-December, it was clear that waiting for rescue was no longer an option. A group of 15 of the strongest members decided to attempt to cross the pass. They called themselves the Forlorn Hope. Their mission was to reach California and bring back help. The journey was hellish. They had little food and improper clothing for the deep snow. They fashioned snowshoes from oxbows and rawhide. Progress was painfully slow. Some went snowblind, others suffered severe frostbite. After a week, they were lost and starving. Tragedy struck when they reached the summit. They became disoriented in a blizzard. 5 men died from exposure. The survivors were forced to eat their dead companions. It was a grim foreshadowing of what awaited those left behind at the lake. Against all odds, 7 members of the Forlorn Hope survived. After 33 days of unimaginable hardship, they stumbled into a Native American village. They were barely alive, but they had made it. News of the stranded pioneers spread quickly. The race to organize a rescue party began. Section 9. Rescue Attempts and Grim Discoveries. The first rescue party set out in late January. They battled through deep snow and harsh conditions. When they reached Donner Lake, they were horrified by what they found. Half-eaten bodies lay scattered about. The survivors were more like walking corpses than living people. The rescuers could only take a few of the strongest back with them. They promised to return for the others, but for many it was too late. As news of the cannibalism spread, public opinion turned against the Donner Party. Some called for them to be left to their fate. Over the next 2 months, 3 more rescue parties braved the mountains. Each time they found fewer survivors. The scenes they encountered were nightmarish. In one cabin, they found a pot of human flesh on the fire. The rescuers were traumatized by what they witnessed. The last survivor was rescued on April 17, 1847. Of the 87 members of the Donner Party, only 48 survived. The others had succumbed to starvation, exposure, and disease. The survivors were forever changed by their ordeal. Many refused to speak of what happened at Donner Lake. Section 10. Legacy of the Donner Party. The Donner Party tragedy became a cautionary tale of the dangers of westward expansion. It highlighted the risks of taking unproven shortcuts and the harsh realities of pioneer life. The story captured the public imagination, a dark chapter in the romance of the Old West. Over time, the survivors struggled with their experiences. Some, like James Reed, went on to prosper in California. Others never fully recovered from the trauma. The children who survived carried the psychological scars for life. Many changed their names to escape the stigma. Today, Donner Lake is a popular recreation area. A monument stands where the pioneers endured their terrible winter. Visitors can tour replicas of the cabins and learn about the tragedy. The story continues to fascinate, a testament to human endurance and the will to survive. The Donner Party serves as a reminder of the thin line between civilization and savagery. It shows how quickly society can break down in extreme circumstances, but it also demonstrates the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Against all odds, some survive to tell their harrowing tale. Their story will never be forgotten.